Greetings and welcome to TIRA's Global Mobility Matters series, where we speak with corporate HR and mobility leaders to gain their insights and perspective on the world at work and the talent mobility landscape, both today and tomorrow. I'm Susan Ginsberg, your host, a TIRA partner and consultant. TIRA was founded over 40 years ago and is an allied network of over 50 independently owned relocation companies in over 500 locations. The network stands for expertise, excellence, and collaboration, helping organizations around the world move their talent where it's needed and when it's needed. I'm thrilled to be here today with Bob Church, Senior Manager Global Mobility at Tronox. So Bob, tell us about yourself and your company.
Thanks, Susan. Good to be here. As you mentioned, I work for a company called Tronox. Just passed my 5-year anniversary here at the company as the mobility manager. I'm a team of one, which is probably familiar to lots of people out there. Tronox is the largest vertically integrated TiO2 producer in the world. So we're a mining and chemical manufacturing company. And that our primary product is something that is an additive that goes into products that turns pigment white, makes paper white, also turns up in lots of other uses. And we are also recently broadening our scope into rare earth minerals. We're trying to use some of the byproducts from our operations to build up that business. And so exciting times here at the company. Career-wise, I've been in corporate mobility, corporate HR, global mobility for just about 30 years now. And then before that, I did a little stint as on the tax side of things as well. So a long career, but it's been a lot of fun.
Thrilled to have you here and for you to share your depth and breadth of expertise. So let's get started with a couple questions. So Bob, today we all know we're living in uncertain and turbulent times where change, frankly, is the only constant. How do you view the future of work landscape, really of today and tomorrow? And how can global mobility adapt to that ongoing change and remain relevant?
Yeah, interesting question, right? So at Tronox, I suppose I can give you the view from us, I guess, pre and post pandemic, and even through the pandemic. Work here never had the opportunity to change. We were classified as a critical industry, so we were not shut down. All of our facilities operated full time through the pandemic. So work here for the majority of the employees who go to a facility every day to work didn't change. But where we did embrace the hybrid work environment, if you will, is on the corporate level. And that really was something that we had done to some degree before the pandemic. And I think the pandemic just sort of put it on steroids and made us really have to embrace it. And I think there's lots of positives that come from that. It unlocks lots of really great potential. You have people who can now remain in the workforce where they would have had to make a choice between family and career. Now they didn't have to do that, where they would have more time to dedicate to older parents, to kids, to other endeavors, save themselves time commuting. Wonderful benefits from across the world. And then, of course, from a mobility perspective, it changes the perspective of, do I need to go on long-term assignments? Is that the only way you can do mobility? At Tronox, we had some long-term assignments, but we're given the company and where our facilities are located, and they're not in these very populated areas. Chemical manufacturing facilities are generally in local in remote areas. We already had pretty much embraced commuter assignments, rotational assignments, these kinds of things, because going to those locations was difficult for family and also difficult for employees. A lot of times it would be really asking a lot to have people move to remote areas. We have mine facilities in the outback in Australia. I mean, obviously not a lovely place to spend a lot of time, but for work and when the project's working, absolutely critical to have people there. So I think we were already there, and now when we've come through the pandemic to the other side, I think we're finding ourselves like a lot of the other companies trying to find the balance between using those commuter assignments, using those things, but also we've begun to do a little more long-term assignments. We've kind of gone back to that a bit more because we're also trying to get people to go back to the office where it's possible. And that's really for our corporate employees to see if they can find time to get into the office 1, 2, 3 days a week. And try to rebuild those networks. So I think it's an evolution, but I think we're right where a lot of the people are as well.
I really like what you had to say, Bob. And, you really touched on your culture, which is so important to all of us wherever we work. And it sounds like, words such as resilience, agility,
Mhm.
flexibility was already baked into your company culture, given the fact that you are in these more remote locations. And so, your role has been, as you've described it to me previously, has been really all about flexibility, listening, and adapting to a changing environment. And the fact that like a lot of companies, Tronox is asking their colleagues, their employees to come back to the office for a period of time. Again, speaks to, an evolution within your organization. So thank you for sharing your views.
Sure.
So, next question, Bob. How would you define what we all talk about as the client and customer experience? From
Uh,
your vantage point, what are the priorities, you being the global mobility manager of Atronics and a team of one? It's important for you to rely on your service providers to collaborate with you to deliver the excellence that you need in working with you, your company, as well as your valued employees. So if
yeah.
you could share what's essential to you will help us gain insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's you're right. As a team of one, and I've been a team of one many times, and I'm sure people can relate to it. Yeah, your providers are your lifeline. I mean, without them, there's not a chance in the world you could be successful without them. But you have to have a methodology, right? Because now being in the industry a long time, I know lots of people in lots of different companies providing immigration or tax or DSP or whatever it may be. So finding the right connection is it's about technical skills, right? Do they have the basic technical skills to do whatever it is you have them provided to you, whether that be the immigration or the tax or what have you? Um, but then it becomes more about the culture, and I mean it both ways. I mean it to the employees, and I mean it for me as well, right? So for the employee side of it, can you relate to my employees the way that they like to be related to? I've been different companies. It's been different wherever a lot of places I've been here at Tronox. Once again, like I mentioned, we have facilities that are in somewhat remote areas. So can you relate to people who are used to going to a manufacturing facility or a mine or those kinds of folks every day? And our corporate folks work at those facilities as well. We don't have corporate offices where they can sit in a nice air conditioned room. They go to the facility. So you have to get into the mindset of those folks and how they like to operate. And that means that they're very self-reliant. They can be very willing to just, roll with the punches, what have you. But they deal on a personal level. They want someone to be able to talk to. They want someone to be able to ask questions of, and they want to be able to ask them of in somewhat of a confidential nature. They don't want to ask their manager or myself. Maybe they want to ask a few difficult issues or bring up things that they want to discuss with us. And how does my provider navigate those conversations? Because obviously we need to have some of the information. We don't need to know everything about them. So that's a challenge. It's interesting to find folks who can really work that way. And then, of course, the other challenge is working with me. Once again, being in the business for too long, I guess I know a little bit about everything, which makes you a very dangerous person. So I tend to ask lots of questions. I'll tend to delve into the details on things and maybe drive my providers a little bit nuts. But I need somebody who can deal with me on that level because I'll also do the converse, which is I don't give you things and just walk away. Like I'm not going to dump stuff on you and just say, figure it out. I don't want to know, just take care of it. I like to be involved. I like to share the burden, and make it a collaboration, right? I'm not going to be the person internally who goes, oh, well, it wasn't me, it was them. We're a team. Once we're a team, we're a team. And I look at it that way, whether you would be an employee of mine or a provider of mine, I like to look at that relationship that way.
So I really appreciate your sincerity and view on partnership. That it sounds like, as you describe it, not only a partnership with the people, your value transferees, kind of sitting in their seat, asking the questions that they may not feel comfortable asking, anticipating what their needs may be while respecting their independence, but also being an extension of of
Right.
your role, having service providers who don't wait, who will ask questions, who will give you the friendly nudge, if you will, who will work within your ecosystem and share accountability with you so that it really is a win to Tronics, to you, to your value transferees, and to your providers. And so that really builds, in my view, tremendous loyalty. And I really appreciate, you're reflecting on your many years of expertise and really what matters to you.
Yeah, no, that's actually very, very well said. Better than I said it, but yes, that's exactly what it is. It is that relationship that I want to have. And yeah, it goes both ways. The respect goes both ways. And when I can find that, yeah, I value it more than almost anything. But I have some of those relationships right now, and they are absolutely critical to my success and to making sure the employees taken care of.
Great. Thanks, Bob. And so moving on to the last question, which we're going to talk about technology. If you could reflect on the use of digital and AI systems that is really, vigorously emerging in our industry today, how does technology, you mentioned that earlier, technology play a factor for you? And again, what do you expect of your service providers, who, as you've explained so well, are really an extension of you and your role?
Yes. Yes. So look, I mean, I think I am I I struggle to not become the old man who's like, oh, technology, it's too fast, it's too much, we got to slow it down, because that's not an option, and I know it's not an option. So what I try to do as best I can is to try to make sure that when we're using the technology, that we're using it for what purpose are we using it for? What do we need it for? And that's myself, service providers, internally, externally. Um, what benefits are we going to get? As I mentioned a minute ago with the service providers, like my team here, my people here really value personal interactions. So not that they don't appreciate technology, they like to have an app, they like to be able to look things up, they like to be able to get access to submit their expense reports. All of those things are fantastic, but they don't want to lose the human component that's behind it. I think that the wave of AI is a wonderful innovation. It really is. And I do have that concern. I wonder how far it can go before we begin to lose a little bit of the human element that goes behind it. I know we're not there, and I know it's not something that's happening tomorrow. But when I see that we're embracing it, I've used ChatGPT to help me, draft up a proposal because I didn't want to think, I didn't have time. But then, of course, I take it and I make it my own, based on lots of experience and going back and forth and doing things tangibly myself. And some of me does worry that there are a generation of people who will just sort of lose that ability to some extent. And I don't mind technology making our lives easier. Look, we go back a ways. I mean, I remember when I first started working, I didn't have a computer on my desk. I go back. I mean, technology has been a wonderful thing in my life over the last 40 years, and it will probably be a wonderful thing over the next 40 years. But I want to make sure that when we're using it and embracing it, that it's with a purpose and with a thoughtful approach, and not just because it's an easy way to do things or it makes things more quote unquote productive, meaning less people, more technology. That's not always a balance that people strike. And I want to try and strike that balance.
Well, I think your perspective is smart and realistic, is to use technology what it's best for, um, while having a strong point of view about the importance of the human touch. We in the relocation industry all know that moving is one of the top three stressors in
Oh,
life. Uh, and so next to, death and divorce and those kind of very serious elements. So your perspective, as I'm talking to others, is consistent, Bob, is to reflect on and use technology what it's best for, and make those smart decisions, human
yeah.
and humane decisions, that not only benefit your transferees, but you and your role and your company. And, given your depth and breadth of experience, you are a wonderful role model for the next generation of people who will someday lead the way in global mobility. So I can't thank you enough for your sharing your time and your expertise. I want to thank everyone who's listened today. We encourage you to go on our YouTube channel at tiranetwork.com to see our other Global Mobility Matters series. Thank you all for listening, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Susan.